Hey, what's going on, Keith? Good evening. How are you doing? I'll give everyone just a few more minutes to jump in here, and then we will go ahead and get started. I'm hoping that it's not too long. I'll kind of keep a same cadence that we've kind of been doing in the past couple weeks. I'll kind of walk through my watch list, some things that I'm watching, things that I'm kind of seeing. We'll talk about some setups that I kind of like, and then if there's any chart requests, we can open it up at the end for those. So I'm hoping that we can kind of do this within a 30-40 minute period. I would think we could kind of walk through everything. Might be sooner than that. Might be a little bit later than that too. But I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So yeah. Awesome. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Hopefully, you guys got to spend time with your moms or with your significant others who maybe are moms. And if you don't have moms out there, hopefully you just had a great Sunday. Okay, it's 9:02. Let's go ahead and jump into it, and we'll get started. And we'll let others trickle in here, but these are recorded. Everyone has a link for this. Hey Sunil, how are you doing? So yeah, let's jump into it. First thing I want to talk to you guys about is some earnings that are coming up this week. Let's take a look at the earnings calendar. I actually posted it in the earnings calendar channel. See Never Satisfied also put it out there as well this evening. Let me drag my screen down here. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see this. There we go. Okay. So this is the earnings calendar. These are some of the names that we'll be reporting this week. Specifically, looking at the calendar, I'm interested to see how NU reports tomorrow after close. Home Depot Tuesday before open. Baidu, BIDU, ticker symbol BIDU, China name, Tuesday as well before open. And then Wednesday before open, really interested to see what Target TJ Maxx numbers are. That will probably drive Walmart on Thursday before market open, and then Ross after the close on Thursday. Two names that I also like on Thursday are Alibaba, before open on Thursday, and then Applied Materials after close on Thursday. So nothing too crazy from a company perspective, but we do have some big retail juggernauts in here with Target and Walmart. Those Target should tell us the story. I would think with Walmart. TJX probably should tell us a story with Ross. Baidu might tell the story for Baba. So we'll just keep an eye on it and see what we get. But those are some names that I like going into this week for potential flush plays. As always, we'll take a look and see what the implied move is, and we can play it out of there. Okay, drag this guy back out here. Perfect. Okay, so now let's get into it. Let's kind of talk about some things that I'm watching this week, and let's jump into QQQ first. QQQ, again, guys, this is a pretty busy chart here, but let's just zoom out and let's just see where we're at, right? So I had mentioned that like 328 was going to be a big spot. You guys can see it here, that this was going to be a big spot for us on QQQ to get over on the daily time frame. I also mentioned that like on the weekly time frame that this is going to be this would be a big spot for us, 328 spot, because if you see, we haven't had a weekly candle close above the 328 spot, 328, 329 spot, all the way since April of 2022. Okay, we haven't had a weekly candle close on QQQ above that. So this is a very interesting spot because, as you can see, we're hitting some resistance, right? Like this is where we had resistance earlier, I guess in August of 2022. The same level, this 329 level, is going to be huge on the weekly time frame. But if we get over this, this is where I think we've got room up on the weekly to at least that 346, potentially 350, maybe even 360 level area to the upside. However, when we pushed on the weekly time frame, we got 327.17 on Friday, but we couldn't get up over that, and we couldn't push to that 328 level, which is telling for me. That's interesting to me, because remember as well, if we look at Tesla, right? Tesla pushed all the way up to that gap at 177.76, but we could not get over the 177.76 area. And on Friday, Tesla was an absolute bloodbath, right? So we just sold off completely. Let's look at the 15 on Tesla to be a little bit cleaner. The 15 on Tesla here, we just sold off all day long on Tesla. We put a tweezer top in on the 15 minute, and then, sold all the way down. The 165s that we had went about 460% that I told you guys I was grabbing at $5 a contract. The 170 puts at open, guys, I think were about $5 a contract, and those ran to over $1. So it was like a 2,100% move on the 170 puts. So Tesla, just interesting, interesting setup here on Tesla that we sold so hard. After the nice move that we had, after the news of Elon, with Linda coming in as a Twitter CEO, after all of that news, Tesla sold really hard, which is interesting and peculiar to me as we go into a new week, because that was a pivot spot on Tesla. We rejected it and we sold all the way back down. So for me, what I'm going to be looking at is potentially Tesla short here, and if you look, this is kind of the area that I want to see break down here, right? Like we held this area. If we get weakness on Monday, tomorrow, one thing I'll be looking at is this potential area here, right? Like if I turn my levels on, I bet we have, so we have our level that we've been playing, right? The 167.69 level, and this is the hourly chart here, but we can see we had one anomaly where we kind of fell out of this on the hourly chart, and we landed here, right, at 166.62. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put a level here at 166.62, 166.65. Because I think underneath of this 166.65, we get to move down to that 165.31 area. This is kind of what I'll be watching tomorrow on Tesla, is Tesla short. I'm not sure that Tesla catches a bid. However, if we open above 167.69, I will be looking for Tesla to push back up to that 170.94 or 171 level. Really not an actual setup, I'd say, here on Tesla from a larger daily time frame perspective. Just wanted to note the fact that Tesla did have a major sell day on Friday. I don't think anyone saw that happening or anticipated that happening after the news that we had gotten. So interesting that that sold off, that people sold that off. I feel like typically, if we were going to get like a big run out of a name like Tesla back to that like 200 spot, like that would have been the news that probably would have catapulted us and sent us on our way. Now let's take a look at SPY, because SPY is interesting to me as well. This is an interesting chart for me when we look at SPY, right? Like if we turn off our drawings, what do we see here, right? We see range. So we basically see 409.20 hourly candle closes, right? Actually, we could probably say 409.20, and then we see basically 414.28. Okay, so about $4 worth of range. 409.20, 414.28, or $5 a range. And again, this is where I kind of like lean into price consolidation, equals range expansion, right? That's what we've been talking about for a while, and I think we're going to see that on SPY, admittedly, right? So if you look back, if we turn the extended on, we're basically looking at the last 3 trading days, so all the way back to May 10th. Now, if we turn the extended hours off, what we see here, all right, coming back here into May 10th, is that we do have, some price consolidation happening here, right? And so this is where I think we're going to see a move here on SPY. This is the move that I would want to play on SPY when this happens, right? I'm not really interested. I don't really necessarily have a no trade zone on indexes or on SPY, but for me personally, this is what I'm looking at here. I'm looking for us to break upside out of this range, because I think the next level that we go to, regular trading hours tell us that it's probably going to be 414.80. right? And then over 414.80, where do we get? 417.55. Now the level I have marked is 55. We did hit 417.62. Basically, this is going to be that upside level that if we break out over 414.80, that's the next level that we get to, right? Similarly, if we break down from here, where do we break down from, right? Well, last time we broke down, we kind of came down here and we grabbed the 408.34 level, so our next level down. We did hold 407.60, but when we lost 407.60 on the hourly time frame, we fell all the way down to 403.74, 404 area. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be watching, a break of basically 409 or a break of 414. $5 range, that's what I'm looking for on SPY. Because the last 3 days on the hourly time frame, this is where we've been range bound and we've been stuck at. Which is why I said I think, there's a lot of buyers and sellers here at this 411 area. And you can see, right, looking back on the chart, they typically take us there, right? We've hung out at this 411, this line right here. Let's actually color this like an orange color so you can see it, right? But we've hung out at this 411 line so much, right? And it acts as a pivot spot. Reject it, fall to 403, reclaim it, go to 417, right? Reject it, fall down to 408, reclaim it, go up to 413. So this is 411 is a key pivot spot for me, but more specifically, I'm looking at this range here because it's $5 worth of range, and I think we could see a pretty sizable move out of this. So what I'm going to do now, just so you guys can see this, I'm going to go ahead and set my price trigger alerts. I'm going to create an alert at 409.18, and I want this alert to be below. I want SPY to tell me when we're getting ready to fall through 409. I always have SPY up, but I'm just going to put these alerts on so you guys can see how I do this and get in the habit of doing something like this. 413.80, I'm going to create an alert, but I'm going to create that alert above 413.80. So I'm going to save, and so now I'm done. So my range is now defined, $4 worth of range essentially, and when that breaks, Webull is going to tell me that it's breaking, and I need to get to the chart to kind of see what's going on and how I want to play it. Okay, so that's SPY. We talked about SPY, we talked about QQQ, and we talked about Tesla. Now I want to talk about Meta. Meta is another interesting one. We've got a lot of range here again, right? Range. Price consolidation leads to range expansion. This is an interesting name because, now this one has more range, admittedly, right? We've got a level down here, 230. We popped all the way up here to, let's just call this upper band level, 243, right? So $13 worth of range. But what I like about this is the potential breakdown from this area. So if we look at the daily time frame, right, we are just consolidating in this area. And let's turn off the drawing so you guys can see what I'm talking about here, right? But we tried to push up, we came back down, now we're just consolidating, right? Tons of consolidation happening here. If we put a level at 237, right, if we put a level here at 237, instead of putting a, let me just, here we go, let's do this. Yeah, instead of putting a level there, I just want to show you guys what this looks like, right? So if we put a level here, instead of putting it on my chart, I want to put it here because the chart gets a little messy, but I want to show you guys, right? Like if we put a daily level there, right at about that 237.16, you can see we held 237.16 when we broke down through it. We came up, we rejected it once, we stayed underneath, we rejected it twice, 3 times, and 4 times, right? So 237.16 is a key pivot spot for me to the upside. We break 237.16 to the upside, right? I think that's where we get that move back up to that 240, 244 area. The interesting thing for me is a breakdown under 230, because I think a break under 230, we get to 221 relatively quickly, right? Like if you look at this chart, we can see pretty clearly, let me take off this consolidation box, but pretty clearly we can see, right, that if we lose 230 right here, this next level comes pretty quick, 221, right? And that's what's called a PEG, a post-earnings gap, is what we'll call that, because we have this gap here from earnings, right? The next morning we opened up, we gapped up. Well, we have this big gap that has to be filled. It doesn't have to be filled all the way back down to 212, but it does have to be filled at some point. I think once we give up this 230 spot, we will see that. So what I'm going to do is actually set an alert again at 230. Let's set it at 230.40. Okay, so price below 230.40. So now it's meta, I'll know when meta is falling. I'll know that it's going to hit that 230 spot, and under 230 I'm looking for 223.46. Then I'm looking for 221, 220 area relatively quickly on meta. Okay, so that's my meta setup that I'm watching. Nice work, Joey. Now let's look at a daily setup here that I really like, that I shared in chat with you guys. We're going to talk about some daily setups now that I really like, and if you guys have any setups, send them my way. We'll take a look at them, and we'll see if they make sense, right? So this is the first one, and I actually just noticed this. I didn't see this on Ford until just now. You guys see how I added a horizontal resistance line here at $12.93. We have a rejection, 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 gap up, right? So if we break out over this, where do I think we can head to? Probably around the mid 13s, basically, is what I'd be looking for. A retest up here around this level somewhere. I'm not sure why this level's on here on Ford. I don't know what this 1145 is. I'm going to take this off because I don't know what it is. What I'm looking at here on Ford is the potential that if we break down out of this wedge, we could be heading back to that $10 spot on Ford. If we break to the upside, then I think we do get that $13 spot, and over 13 we could get mid 13s, and if we break out over that, I think that's where we could make a move back into the $15 range on Ford. But I like this daily setup because this is what we say all the time. Sorry for moving the screen so much, but this is what we say all the time, right? Price expansion and consolidation leads to range expansion. So we're wide, we're tight, we're tight, we're tight, we're tight, we're tight. So we're consolidating, big range, consolidating. When we break the range, we're going to get big range again, right? Big range, consolidate, big range down, or big range, consolidate, big range back up. And that's where we can see that movement. If you guys don't believe me, that's where we can go back and look at a chart like snow. Right? So here's an A+ chart of range expansion. Okay? Range expansion is here, right? So price consolidation. So we're all the way up at, where are we at here? We're at 175. We fall all the way down to 148. Then we fall all the way down to 128. Then we consolidate. Then we push back up, to 157. Then we come back down. But you can see here, right, we're holding this range. Consolidate. Now we're range bound. Consolidating, drop out of range. We get a 5% down day, right? We go from 140 and we closed at 135. So a $5 move down. Next morning we fall back into range, right? Consolidate, consolidate, consolidate. Boom, we break out of range. What happens when we break out that morning? We break out, we're sitting right here, right? And then we have a 7% up day. So we open at 148 and we close at 155. Okay, the high was 156.60. Then we come back up and then we retest that daily gap fill here that I missed. We got the daily gap fill. Then we pushed up again, but this is price consolidation leading to range expansion. This is exactly what that is there. We could look at snow. We could look at a name like Riot to see that this is what happens, right? Riot, price consolidation, boom, range expansion, right? And now we're kind of right back in that range, if you will, to an extent. I'm not going to touch that chart here just yet, but yeah, we're basically right back into the range that we have there. But again, price consolidation, range expansion, boom, we got to break out to the upside, right? XOM's another one that we played. We played this one for over 400%. Price consolidation leads to range expansion, right? And in this range expansion candle right here, it was not even a 0 DTE. I think these expired on the 5th. This was Tuesday, the 2nd. And so on Tuesday, we got a 400% play. The contracts didn't expire until Friday. So XOM, this was the trade that we took on XOM. Really liked the setup. Right now, I don't really see too much happening on XOM because I think that was the setup. Now, if we lose 102.84 on XOM, absolutely, I think we could short it back down to 99. So I'll set a price alert on XOM here. Below 103.19 is what I'll set it at. Yeah, we'll just set it there. That way I get that. But that's what I'm thinking about XOM right now. Now, if I look at Microsoft, here's a daily setup that reminds me of XOM. Right? We didn't consolidate as much, because if we go to XOM, how many days did we consolidate here? I think it was a number of days, right? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and on the 21st day we broke down. Microsoft does not have 20 days of consolidation. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days of consolidation. So I think this Microsoft trade, I'm not saying Microsoft to the downside, because it could be up or it could be down, but hopefully you guys notice this same consolidation pattern. And if you take anything from the Sunday scan, if you're new here in Moneyline, take the fact that price consolidation typically leads to range expansion. It doesn't happen all the time, but typically what happens is when we get so coiled on a certain time frame, we see a nice move out of that time frame eventually. And that's kind of what we like to play on these daily setups, right? That's why I think this is a great daily setup on Microsoft. People ask me, are we playing upside or downside? I don't know until we break the range, right? So what I'm going to do is set an alert, create an alert, but I want to do it at 312.50 to the upside. And then I'm going to set an alert for 305 to the downside. There we go. Okay, so I've got my alert set 312.50, 305 to the downside. Whichever one of those breaks, then that'll give me an actionable setup to play the move out of that consolidation. And that's why, going back to Ford, I think Ford is going to be a great one as well, right? This wedge, it might break tomorrow, it might not break tomorrow, but when it breaks, I think it'll be a nice mover for us to the upside or to the downside. Now, one name that we've been talking about a lot is Costco. Okay, now Costco seemingly on the daily time frame did break out, and if we look at the weekly time frame, that is a technical breakout on the weekly. Now, what's going to happen this week is that Walmart and Target are going to be huge, I think, from Costco perspective. If Walmart comes in and smashes, I think we're going to see that, Costco is probably going to start flying with it, I would imagine. So on the weekly time frame, this is considered a breakout on the weekly. We finally got a weekly candle close out of this consolidation up over the 500 level. Costco is going to be a top watch for me tomorrow morning and Tuesday morning to see if there's any type of momentum in the consumer sector that's going to push a name like Costco higher. If you look at the weekly, I think we have a lot of room up. I'd be targeting probably somewhere around in this area, right? Somewhere up in here as first target, and then second target would probably be somewhere up in this area right up here, right? So PT1 probably somewhere around 530, PT2 somewhere around 550, 560 is what I'll be looking for. Okay, so those are my Costco thoughts. The weekly time frame did break out, and so that's why I like this name to the upside here going into the week. If you look back, actually, the interesting thing on Costco's chart, it's so coiled right now because if you look back in time, Costco has never been this coiled before on the weekly time frame. I mean, I'm talking going all the way back, right? Like we're talking now. We're in 2008. You can't even see this chart, but it's just been. I mean, we have had no consolidation like we've had on this large of a scale. And again, like we just talked about, when price consolidates for a long period of time, price has been consolidating like this for over a year on Costco now, right? The week of April 8th, 2022, the high was 606. May 20th of 2022, the low was 403. So people got absolutely slaughtered on Costco who bought it at 606 in just less than 3 weeks. Okay, or sorry, just over 4 weeks time, about 6 weeks. They got absolutely slaughtered. Okay, so think about the people that are underwater that were buying up here in the 570s, 606s. What are longs going to try and do, and what are shorts going to try and prevent? Shorts don't want us to get back up there because this is where the longs who are underwater right now potentially want to sell out and break even, or push us even higher from 606 and get all-time highs. But you have to start thinking in terms of that. But this is looking like this is going to be a pretty massive move at some point. And it very well could be this week. We could get a pretty nice candle push here up into that 513 area, potentially 520 area. Again, my first price target to the upside, if upside momentum is where we go, which it does look like it with this breakout here, I am looking for 425 area, 430 to hit on Costco. Okay. Another name that I wanted to talk about on the daily time frame here is Carvana. Now, this is a name, if we turn our levels on, I don't know if I have anything. Oh, yeah, they're already on. Just looking here, right? Look at where we held on Carvana, right? This is an interesting spot to me. This $10, almost like a $10 psych level, 10-20 level. I don't really know what level this is. So to say the low on Friday was 1023, but take a look at how well this level has been respected, right? Since December, right? I'm not too worried about what's going on back here, because there's probably, yeah. Imagine buying Carvana at 376. That's besides the point. But anyway, since December, right, of 2022. This level has proved to be pivotal because if we look, we can see, right? We can see exactly where buyers and sellers have kind of taken us to, and it's pretty obvious, right? 355 was the low. They pushed us all the way back up to 1022. We rejected it. The next day, we held it on the daily time frame, and what happened the very next day? Very next day, we got a 33% candle. We went from a low of 985 to a high of 1435. The very next day, right, we pushed up another 5% and then fell back. We pushed up higher than 5% and then fell back down. But where did we come back down to eventually, right? We came back down to 1022. So prior resistance now becoming support. And it's support, and then we fall down through it, and then we push back up. And prior support becoming resistance. Resistance, break, push up, potentially support now, right? So this is an area that Carvana wants to bounce at, and if it doesn't bounce here, we could be moving back into like the mid, I'd say 9 to 9,891 area relatively quickly. So tomorrow at open, this is going to be a big spot for me. Do buyers hold 1022 on Carvana and send us back up? Or do we fall down through what was prior support and do we make it resistance again? Now, if we fall through, or if we open under 1022, don't get stuck on a bull trap on Carvana. Now, we'll look at the options tomorrow and see what the IV's like, but what we could get is a move like this, right? We could get a potential rejection candle. We could get a push up over our level and then come back down and then subsequently fall back down at open, right? So that'll be something that I'm watching here, but this 1022 spot is pretty big on Carvana. It is something that I'm going to be watching going into this week, potentially tomorrow and Tuesday. Last name I want to talk about is Google. This chart looks like it's a strong chart right now. The one thing that's interesting to me on Google, though, is that it is starting to go vertical. We're starting to see some big volume. But we are going to be hitting a supply zone where we could potentially reverse that in the coming days here on Google. We'll need to see what QQQ and the overall market does. Like I said, that range on SPY, that 409 to 414 area, that $5 range, that's going to be huge for us because if we break to the upside, I think we tech can see some nice moves to the upside. But there's a lot of tech coming up into key rejection points at key resistance areas and key overhead supply areas. So that is something to keep an eye on. But as of right now, Google is doing very strong. A nice 4% day on Wednesday. We gapped up the very next day, another 4% day, and then we had, just about a 1% day on Friday. So Google did look pretty good over the last 3 days. It didn't sell off and it did have relative strength. So if the markets push, a name like Google could potentially push us up to the upside. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up to you guys. We're at the 9:30 mark now. I'd like to open it up to you guys for the next 10 minutes or so with some chart requests. We can take a look at some charts, see what you guys have, what you're looking at. Yeah, we could do a little bit of a money line scan, if you will. Tamu, it will not be open tomorrow for free members. We actually have a free trial now if you sign up for a free trial. So we don't do the live trading Monday for everyone. Since we have the free trial offer, you can actually join us for 3 days in a row whenever you'd like to sign up for the free trial. I'm just curious. I want to look at Target's chart while we're waiting on some chart requests to roll in here. Nothing really actionable for me on Target. Interesting chart on Walmart here. I wonder what happened on that day. A high of 158 and a low of 139. That's a pretty big range. Now I'm just curious, so I'm gonna go back and look. Yikes. The 10:30 candle opened at 150.70 and closed at 141. That would have been a nice hourly candle to catch if we would have saw that. So just one thing I'm noting here on Walmart, guys, is that we are approaching overhead supply near all-time high up here at 158.62, I guess is what we'll call that. 158.62, 150, 157, somewhere around in there. Like we could potentially eclipse all-time high depending on how Walmart's earnings go this week. Now let's take a look at BABA. The one thing about BABA, which I warn people on all the time on, is the fact that there are a ton of gap ups and gap downs. So it's not as clean. Like if I turn off the drawings here, it's not really as clean to me, as some other charts are. I mean, we could turn the drawings back on and like we could potentially look at things like this. Like we could look at potential trend line shifts, break out of a trend, push up. Is this another trend line potential that we have going on here? Do we break out of this, or is this the trend line, right? Like something like it's just there's not a lot of good actionable setups, I feel like, on BABA right now. So yeah, from a daily perspective, it's just not, for me and my style, it's not a really clean chart on the daily that I like to look at, other than this, right? Like this is an actionable setup down here, right? Because this is basically a double bottom on the daily, right? So that's why I actually did have this level marked, and I don't have the level here anymore, but I'm going to put it on, and I'm just going to say under 80.50, let me know. Because if we break down through 80, I think we move down to like 76, 75 pretty quickly on BABA. So I'll be watching that for a breakdown under 80, because if you look, we've held 80, right? Bounce, push all the way to 104. Bounce, do we push all the way to 104 now? I'm not sure, right? Because we rejected this area here. We had a gap fill right here. If I zoom in, sorry if you guys can't see this. Bounce, 104, bounce, so far 87, right? But the last time we took this level, we had a big gap up. That was when Alibaba announced all the restructuring, and they pushed us all the way to 104, and then they sold it back down. Let's take a look at Apple. We didn't talk about Apple, but it's a good one to talk about. This is another consolidation play here. We could basically put it kind of just like this, right? because it's a name that if I turn off the drawings, you guys can see this, right? You can see there's consolidation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of consolidation basically. And none of these days, by the way, broke out of that first day's range, right? So the high is 174.06, the low is 170.52. Basically, all you need to do here is use that first day, use Cinco de Mayo, May 5th's range on Apple for your breakout play, right? So if we break 174.06, I think we push up and get that 174.35 from Thursday of last week. And then over that, I think we get that 175, 178 all-time high level. If we break down through 170, what was the level here? 170.74. Then I think we march back down into that, 166, 165 area. Hood Perk says earnings Wednesday, and there were huge orders at ask about 200 million in shares purchased of TJX. Anytime there's economic downturns, discount stores like TJ Maxx, Ross, things like that, they typically thrive pretty well, right? Because if I can go buy Polo Ralph Lauren at TJ Maxx for $30 a shirt, you have to think about it like that from consumer sentiment. Would you rather do that, or would you rather go to Ralph Lauren and spend $80 on a shirt? That's why companies like Advanced Auto do really, really well when we go into economic downturns. As you guys think about like rebalancing portfolios and things like that, think about like what would do well in economic downturns. People typically, if we go into a massive recession, people typically aren't buying new cars, right? So what are people gonna be driving? Used cars, or they're gonna hold on to new cars, and those new cars that become older are gonna need maintenance, which is why stores like Advanced Auto, AutoZone, things like that, like do really well in those environments. Let me actually see if I can prove that to you. Yeah, okay, here we go. So AutoZone, right? If we look at the weekly, where did I want to prove this to you guys at? There was somewhere we had, maybe it was Advanced Auto. Maybe it is AutoZone. You have to believe me. I'll prove it to you guys. There's been studies that have been done on it. I studied it actually in school. We talked about this a lot. I'll show you guys. But basically, think about it in terms of like in economic downturns and distress, people are going to be, names like that are safer bets to park your money than high beta names, if that makes sense. Right? What makes more sense during a recessionary period if you want to potentially make money on a long-term investment? Putting it into a name like AutoZone during a recessionary period, or putting it into a name like Neo or Lucid, right? A high growth name. Probably a name like AutoZone, because people are going to be using the products and the sales probably increase during recessionary periods at an AutoZone or an Advanced Auto than when the rates are super low and people are buying new cars off the shelf left and right. AR Square says Nvidia is looking like a rising wedge on the daily. Let's take a look at the daily. Yeah, so for me, sorry for all the levels here. We play Nvidia quite a bit, I feel like. For me, what I had on the daily time frame was, yeah, exactly, grocery stores too. Agree with you, Henry. Agree 100%. Yeah, CRPT, same thing. But AR squared, Nvidia here. What I have, I don't know that I necessarily have like a rising wedge. What I would say that I have is a trend line on the daily time frame. Bounce, 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 bounce. Flat top resistance. Right. Now we did, when we got the breakout on the flat top resistance, we broke out 289.32. We went all the way up $3 to 292.20. So that'll be the next spot. If we break again 289.32, I'd be looking for that 292.20. Now the actionable setup here for me potentially would be if we lose this daily trend line, The next level I think we come down to is this level right here, right? And we can color this one purple as well. I think this is the next level we come to. Because if you look, how many times have we held this level on the daily time frame? You see it here? Right? Hold, 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 push. Right? This is kind of that it's kind of a consolidation pattern on NVIDIA here. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On the 29th day, we break out, right? Because we were stuck between 263 and 280. We were stuck in like a $17 range. When we broke out of that, what happened? We got a 4% day where we went all the way from 278 to 290. $12 to the upside on options, right? On May 1st. Okay, I think that was a Monday. Yeah, May 1st was a Monday. So again, this is where, like, you know, as a trader, as a day trader who looks to trade momentum and consolidation, I can play the edges if I want to on the daily time frame. But for me, playing the edges versus taking this trade here and breaking out on consolidation and taking these things, and the runners probably go 5, 6, 700% on Monday when they expire on Friday. That I'll wait for that setup to happen. I'll wait 21 days to smack one of those on the 21st day every single time I get that opportunity, right? So on NVIDIA, to answer your question, R squared, what I see is basically that uptrend intact. We've got the breakout. Now what could be happening here is we could be consolidating again, just like we did before, right? We could just be thrown into new consolidation territory here. We could be at you know, if we call it here, whatever, let's call this 280. 280 to 290, right? So it could be a $10 range of consolidation. We could just be consolidate, break up, consolidate, break up. Could be what's happening. We'll just have to see what happens. I don't know that I necessarily see a wedge on the daily time frame. I just see a lot of momentum up, and the potential here that if we break over 290, that we head back to that 300 level on NVIDIA is kind of what I'm looking at. Cool. Big week for retail. XRT, Rob says. Let's take a look at XRT. I'm gonna do this quickly, guys, so you can see what my initial thoughts are here on XRT. Do we get the daily candle close? Yeah, sweet. So we're in range there. Okay. So yeah, here's what I'm looking at on XRT. I mean, I think this will definitely give us some momentum, right? Walmart, Target, this will tell us where we're going to. This is the daily time frame. So you can see, again, we talk about price consolidation, right? Price consolidation right here. This could be a potential swing trade, Rob, as an idea, right? Because we basically have $20 worth of range. 55 to basically, let's call this 75, right? $20 worth of range. Where do you think we go if we break over 75? Right up into here somewhere, right? That's where I'd be guessing. That's where my money's going. And then if we break down under 55, where do you think we go? Well, probably, if I had to guess, right down in here somewhere. Right? So this is where, again, patience pays, right? And I think depending on what happens with Target, depending on what happens with TJX, with Ross, there's a couple other retail names in there. XRT definitely could see that move. But right now, I think this is what's happening, right? The market's waiting. We're just range bound. You could buy calls at 55 and ride them to 75. Buy puts at 75, ride them back down to 55. Right now, we're just waiting, right? Whatever happens with Walmart, I think, probably pushes this to one side or the other. And again, we can just set these alerts, right? We can set this 55, 95. Let's set an alert at 56.30. How about that? Below 56.30. And then I can set a price above, let's call this 74. There we go. So now I'm set. Now I don't have to watch XRT every single day. I'll know 74 breaks on XRT. I can come here to the daily time frame and say, oh yeah, I know. If we break this, I could probably take some month out calls, and we probably make our move back up into that $89 area on the daily time frame. It's a good risk to reward for me based on what's happened in the past, right? Look at what happened last time we broke out. We broke out and we got massive volume, right? Breakout over 75, we push all the way to 95. Then we come back down and we hold 75, and then we push back to 95, right? And then we consolidate in some range before we come back down and we, ultimately lose this, and we trade back in range again. So if we break out over this, I'm looking for that move back into the 90 area. Last one, let's look at PayPal. Yeah, PayPal looks ugly. The thing that's scary about PayPal for me is I don't want to try and catch a knife, and I also don't want to get caught on the wrong side. But this is another example of price consolidation leads to, price expansion, range expansion. From March 1st all the way until May 8th, we traded from $71 to $78, $7 worth of range for 2 months straight. All of March, all of April, and a few days in May. Right? And then what happened as soon as we broke down out of this? We opened up here. We opened up on May 9th. So on Tuesday of last week, we opened at 69. And on Friday, we closed at 61. Right? So that is, on the earnings report. That is what range expansion will do for you. And these things, if you would have bought, I had the, here I can tell you real quick, I'll tell you while we're on here together. Because I played PayPal. Let me tell you what those things closed at this week, the ones that I had. Here we go. So I bought them at 24 cents on the 9th. They closed this week at $3.40. Right? So I bought it for 24. They closed at 3.40. That's a 1,300% move on weekly contracts. Okay? Price consolidation leads to range expansion. Now, did I hold them? No, I closed them out. I think I closed them out for 50% or 55%, something like that. I sold way too early, but I sold, made 50% on the position. But I just want to show you guys that 2 months of price consolidation and $7 worth of range led to a $9 move to the downside on weeklies, and contracts went, about 1,300 to 1,500%, at least on the 70, whatever I was in. What did I take? $65 puts. Right? That's what I took. So when we talk about setups happening like Microsoft, right? That's what I'm talking about. Now, granted, we're only in this one for 13 days of range, but again, we are trading between 305 and 313. So if we break this, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, we're going to get a slingshot back down here to 294, or at least a 300 psych. If we break 300 psych, then we come down to 295, 294. If we break this, we've got room up. The biggest pivot is all the way back up at 339, but we definitely have room back up here, right? We've got room on the daily time frame to at least, I would say, somewhere up here into the 317 area from 313, so a $4 move up. It'll be a huge move, and so that's what I like to play as a trader is price consolidation leading to range expansion. That's what I want to look at. Now PayPal, to Sunil's point, yeah, we could see some reversals on PayPal, but for me personally, that's some nasty selling volume on PayPal. If we look at the weekly time frame, look at the weekly volume of selling here, right? Biggest weekly sell volume since February of 2022. That's huge. And as far as support goes on the weekly time frame, if we look back here, right, I don't really know that we have much support under 61.55. Like if we put 61.55 as a weekly support line, we probably, the next level that we probably come to on the weekly time frame, probably try and bounce at 57.77, and then underneath of that, I'd probably look down and around that 51 area. So yeah, see, like, oops, way too zoomed in. But see how I put that level there, right? At like 61.55. That's exactly where we bounce on the daily time frame. 61.55. Took us right to it, right? At close, we bounced right over on the weekly time frame. So yeah, this could be a reversal spot on the weekly for sure. We could reverse back up. So we'll see what happens with PayPal, but we have some levels to play the downside now. So that's kind of my watch list that I have, guys. Nothing too crazy this week. I don't have anything, too crazy, too off the wall ideas. We've got some flush plays, we got some consolidation plays. We'll watch the momentum as always. We'll watch Netflix to see if we get some big moves out of Netflix. Oh, Panda says, strat with your consolidation technique. Does it matter if the stock opens up outside the area pre-market, or did you miss the move? Good question. No, you didn't miss it. You typically get momentum to the downside or upside when that happens, right? So PayPal opened up outside of the consolidation, and on that day on PayPal, when I brought the $65 puts, I took them 55%, simply just saying, hey, we opened up underneath consolidation, I'm going downside here. We had a 12% down day on PayPal, right, all the way down. The other name to look at where this happened was Riot, right? Here's Riot. You guys that trade this with me on the call side, when we took the $12 calls, or I think we were in the 11.5s. Maybe it was 12. I can't remember what we took. I think it was 12 actually. Here's the range, right, Panda? The candle opened up. Candle opens at 11.84, drops down to 11.68, and then we push all the way up to 12.90. 155% on Riot calls, I think, here on the $12 calls, and we opened up out of range. There was one more where this happened, and I'm trying to remember the name of it that this happened to. But the point of the matter is that no, you don't have to be like, let's say Microsoft, or was XOM one maybe? No, XOM wasn't one. I can't remember what the other one was, Panda. But let's just say Microsoft opens up tomorrow at 313.25, right? Naturally, what I'm probably going to do is look to get long instantly off the open, because we just broke a massive daily spot, and buyers are going to see the exact same thing I'm seeing, and they're going to try and squeeze shorts and push equities higher. Similarly, if Microsoft opens tomorrow at, let's say, 303, what's going to happen? People are going to short the equity, try and short it all the way back down to probably the 300 psych level. So actually, when you open up outside of range, it can open some, good opportunities for you to play it to the upside or the downside as well. I like it to be broken intraday because it gives me more confirmation, but we've seen it, you've been able to play it even when we break the range in pre-market. I like to play the weeklies AR squared. Now you can be a little bit more safe and play next week if you want to, or like PayPal, right? Like what you could have done on PayPal. Here, let me give you an example. We broke the range on Tuesday on PayPal, right? So you could have played some weeklies. You could have also taken some next week's, or let's say you rode these weeklies all day long. When we broke down through the 66.37 level, you could have rolled your profits into next week's contracts. So let's say hypothetically I put $10,000 into my PayPal position and I make 50%, right? And I make $5,000. Hypothetically, what I could do is take that $5,000 and then put that $5,000 into next week's puts. And let's say I take that, 50% again. Now I've made $5,000 on this week's, and I've made $2,500 on next week's because I just rolled my profits from this week's contracts to next week's contracts. And by the end of the week, I've made $7,500 on PayPal off of a $10,000 investment. So a net return of about 75%. Not saying that those are typical, profit targets and that you take $10,000 positions. I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, if you roll profits, you can do it like that. You could play the weekly, run up a little bit of profit there, and then roll into next week's and just try and play the continuation down and just keep fading, or keep pushing to the upside, whichever side you're on. But for sure you can play it like that. Agree with you, meow meow. For sure that works too. But all right, guys, that's all I got for you this evening. Hopefully you guys found this scan helpful. Hopefully everyone has a great evening tonight. Let's get after it tomorrow. I think tomorrow is our 3rd full week in May. We've got a 4th week after that, and then we've got 3 days after that before we hit the summer months of June. So if you guys are still struggling in the first 2 weeks of May, remember, we've still got 2 more weeks left. We're halfway through. Let's stop doing things that are making you unsuccessful, or that have made you unsuccessful in the first 2 weeks if you are. And let's start adopting habits that are going to make you successful in the last 2 weeks of the month. I think the market, if the market breaks out up or down, we're going to see some really big opportunities to do some damage, in building our accounts. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think when that range breaks on SPY tomorrow, if it does tomorrow, that range, that 409 to 414 area, that $5 range, when we break that, that's going to be a really nice play. So we'll keep that on watch, and we'll try and catch a few plays tomorrow. And so I will see you guys tomorrow morning in pre-market huddle at about 9:15. If you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them on Twitter or drop them in the Discord, and I'll get to them as I see them. Have a good night, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.